Member for Braddon.
Well, thank you, Deputy Speaker. Contrary to what has been said mostly through this debate from the other side, Australia continues to have some of the most stringent and effective environmental laws in the world. Once projects have met these tough requirements, they should, Mr Deputy Speaker, be able to proceed without being subjected to legal sabotage. And the proposed amendments that we are discussing this afternoon do not change, I say that again, they do not change environmental standards. Deputy Speaker, Tasmanians have borne the brunt of the decades-long battle between the extreme Greens and left governments and the business community. While much of the focus in the media has been on a recent case in Queensland, Tasmania has been fighting this battle for years, a battle that has cost jobs, hurt communities, made people move away from the state of Tasmania to the mainland states, and is the bottom line, Mr Deputy Speaker, has hit the Tasmanian economy very, very hard. This legislation will remove the right of politico-environmentalists to ignore the needs and wishes of the local community and challenge projects approved under one of the world's most stringent environmental approvals regimes. Importantly, local agricultural producers, farmers, local residents and communities with legitimate proprietary, economic, financial or other direct interests will not, Mr Deputy Speaker, be affected by this amendment. They can be assured that their voices under these amendments will continue to be heard and the courts will still be available for the protection of their rights. Furthermore, this amendment will maintain the stringent environmental laws and regulations that Australia is known for. It does not weaken environmental law, but protects jobs and gives businesses and workers and communities the assurance that if a development stacks up environmentally and has the support of the community, ratbag environmental political organisations from around the country will not be able to pull it out from under you. Mr Deputy Speaker, the government has decided to protect Tasmanian and Australian jobs by removing from the EPBC Act of 1999 the provision that allows radical green activists to engage in vigilante litigation to stop important economic projects. Mr Deputy Speaker, you only have to refer to the recent report stopping the Australian coal export boom to understand what is at play here. You only have to turn to the first few pages, where it talks about the need. As it says, Australia is on the verge of a coal boom that is unprecedented in both scale and speed, with around 120 new mines or expansions maybe, matched with massive rail and port expansions and so on. It goes on to say we need to stop tens of billions of dollars of investment being locked in. Mr Deputy Speaker, this country needs to grow up. We need to move to a balanced position. We need jobs. Australian families need incomes, they need jobs to be able to feed their families, stop living off the benefits provided by government and to have a fulfilling life as a part of a working community. We need to have balance. We can't simply, as the Greens and those that are of the left of government opposite would have us hanging from trees and drinking mung bean soup. I mean, we have to find the balance, Mr Deputy Speaker. Jobs are important, the environment is important, but we can have both. But I fear that we have groups within our community across this great country that cannot see the wood for the trees, and they are more than happy to drive people out of their jobs and into the hands of the welfare mentality that this country is becoming known for. Mr Deputy Speaker, while mainland Australians old enough may recall the infamous Franklin River protests and environmental fights, it didn't stop there for Tasmanians. Over the decades since Green groups and even our Tasmania's own government in coalition with the Greens Party, they attacked constantly our industries. They shut down forestry, made it difficult to open new mines, and ultimately, Mr Deputy Speaker, that cost 10,000 Tasmanian jobs. Now, in recent years, extreme Green groups have latched onto this provision in the EPBC Act to launch their campaigns against development, against jobs, against business and against our communities. Some of these groups pride themselves on destroying businesses and skiting about how low they've been able to drive the share price on the back of legal action. They delay and oppose mines and any other development. They destroy jobs in my state and they have hurt our communities, often in the most remote parts of Tasmania and Australia. Call it lawfare, call it economic terrorism by judiciary, whatever it is, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. Tasmania can't afford it and Australia certainly cannot afford it. Now, Save the Tarkine, Mr Deputy Speaker, is a notorious group in my electorate for this very action. It tries to bludgeon projects out of existence and it doesn't care what damage it causes along the way. Last year I revealed in this very spot that Save the Tarkine's membership was a mere 20 members. They make a noise and they market themselves as a group of thousands of people when in fact it's only 20, half of which are directors. I reviewed in this place it scarcely spent a cent for hands-on environmental projects, with all of its money basically being funded of wages, legal bills and travel. I also accused Save the Tarkine of running up legal bills with the full knowledge that it was not in any position, Mr Deputy Speaker, to pay the costs if it lost. Well, only a matter of weeks ago, Save the Tarkine lost yet another appeal, this time to the full bench of the Federal Court, against a mining project on the west coast of Tasmania, which would have created 60 full-time ongoing jobs in a small venture and many more in the construction phase. People opposite who live in the big cities might say, 60 jobs, what's that? Well, 60 families benefiting from this job in this particular company is a huge difference in my electorate and in my state. Costs, of course, will be eventually awarded against Save the Tarkine, as they were last time and the time before that. But the question remains today, will they be in existence, Mr Deputy Speaker, to pay back the taxpayers, to pay back the mining company, and will they provide compensation to the communities that have foregone much-needed employment? But this isn't the only action this group is on the go, and this gets to the heart of this amendment. Save the Tarkine has taken it upon themselves to challenge another two projects, this time the granting of a mining lease over Mount Lindsay and Mount Livingston. These mines have the potential to create hundreds of jobs for the West Coast and North West. The West Coast region of Tasmania is historically a mining region. It is not beachfront property. It is not the place where you would think that anyone would have a genuine need to protest. This is a mining region dependent on mining projects for people to live and have their lives intact and their family lives intact. Save the Tarkine is nothing but a professional litigant that exists only to stop projects regardless of what environmental standard they meet. It's ideological for Save the Tarkine, and this legislation, Mr Deputy Speaker, will stop them in their tracks. These tactics have been replicated nationally and on a grand scale, not only bringing together large environmental groups but movements like Get Up, individuals such as Graham Wood and even the unions. The very people that say they stick up for Australian jobs are the ones funding campaigns to destroy those jobs. These groups have come together to produce the document I referred to earlier called Stopping the Australian Export Boom. That is, stopping all mining and stopping jobs. This document right here calls for the creation of $1 million fighting fund to shut down any potential mine before it even starts or goes through the process, and a further $180,000 to create investor uncertainty. This is straight out of the Save the Tarkine playbook. Now, knowing these projects stack up environmentally, the strategy is now to just simply disrupt and delay. What a low act, what a un-Australian act to actually dispose of projects before they've even got a chance to have a go through the development process and spoil it for hundreds, if not tens of thousands of Australians who could do with a job and come off the welfare benefits that the country needs to provide to them at the moment. This group, as I said, called Save the Tarkine, this group that I'm referring to in this document, just like Save the Tarkine, that Australia has the most stringent environmental laws in the world, and to operate here they need to be met. They know that these companies are hit with heavy regulation to ensure the environment is not unreasonably impacted by a project, but that's not enough for them, Mr Deputy Speaker. That's not enough. For these groups, it's just simply ideological. It's astonishing that the United Voice has joined up to this campaign. Perhaps delegates from United Voice, maybe they even voted for Bill Shorten as Labor leader. Maybe they didn't. My guess is they don't know who they voted for, if you believe what you read in the papers. But no doubt they turned up to Labor's conference while the Leader of the Opposition spoke about jobs. Yet here is United Voice throwing money at a scheme to destroy investor confidence in the very companies that employs its members. What a disgrace. What a low act, Mr Speaker, but it's not surprising. Those in the opposition like to talk about jobs. They like to get their mates into the unions to shout about jobs. But when it comes to voting in the parliament to protect jobs, to create jobs and to give life to struggling remote communities, they always oppose. Now, since coming to office, the federal Liberal and National Government has established one-shop environmental assessment agreements with all states and territories. We have managed to cut approval times by 50%. We can do even better if these guys over the other side got out of the way and allowed the full implementation of this policy. We have before the Senate legislation to remove duplication in the environmental approvals process, but those opposite are opposing it. It will get projects off the ground sooner when we get it approved, more people in jobs sooner, and Labor is opposing it. Labor members in Tasmania, senators that represent the electorate of Braddon and all the other electorates, are standing in the way of it. This is unbelievable, Mr Deputy Speaker, at a time when we need many, many more job opportunities. I know that many, Mr Deputy Speaker, in my electorate are weary of the battle. They're weary of this battle, of having a vision for jobs through a mine or any other development cast before them and then cast aside by the litigants of green activists and left-wing members of parliament. But I am resolute in my passion to see Tasmania working again, Mr Deputy Speaker, working again, doing what it does well. I am resolute in my willingness to stand up to those that oppose legislation like this and like the one-stop shop legislation, and against those that think we should go soft of organisations that take pride in destroying our jobs. Now, Mr Deputy Speaker, in summary, let's make this very clear what these amendments do. This legislation, once amended, will maintain property rights. It will maintain the community's rights. Anyone with legitimate, proprietary, economic, financial or other direct interests will not be affected in any way, shape or form by this amendment. Who will be affected are the radical green groups that have established a fighting fund to disrupt and delay projects with the full knowledge that they do meet the world's most stringent environmental laws. I can stand before this parliament tonight and say with absolute confidence the overwhelming number of people in my electorate and in Tasmania have an environmental sensitivity. They are not in the business of wanting to trash our environment. We have 52% of our state's landmass locked up, but we need jobs. We need to find a balance and a sustainable future that provides the opportunity for companies and businesses to invest in mining, other developments, forestry developments, whatever it is, to provide jobs. As I said, Mr Deputy Speaker, for some, they might be happy, for many in our community that depend on these sort of jobs in our community, they might be happy for them to eventually just hang by trees like something out of prehistoric history and to eat nothing but mung bean soup. But at the end of the day, we can't continue to live on the teat of the Australian government welfare program. We need jobs. We need people with good jobs in environmentally sensitive and sustainable projects, and they are available. As I said, Mr Deputy Speaker, these litigants, they're only interested in finding the loopholes. They're not interested in anything else but stopping, disrupting and delaying. Mr Deputy Speaker, even the most radical of green groups still have the opportunity to contribute through the developmental process. They can make their case. They can put in their submissions. They can go and speak at hearings. They can do all that. But what this amendment seeks to do is take away the capacity of anyone without a direct proprietary, economic or financial or community interest of just seeing it as some sort of game, when at the end of the day the only losers in the game are normal Tasmanians, ordinary Australians who end up losing their jobs.